Please welcome to the stage Kim Majerus, Vice President, Global Education and U.S. State and Local Government for Amazon Web Services.
Well, first and foremost, good morning and welcome to Imagine. I am super honored to be able to represent AWS as their global education lead, as well as their U.S. state and local organization. It's an honor and it's an absolute privilege to see so many smiling faces this morning and very familiar faces, as I've spent quite a bit of time in this market and I enjoy reconnecting, especially after the last couple of years. So we're here because we all share the same passion. And that passion is to make groundbreaking, life-changing opportunities for those that we serve. We serve our customers, we serve our customers. Those are students, and those are citizens, which we are a part of that community. You know, we're doing this in a time of such uncertain challenges and change. We've seen it through COVID, and as we continue to navigate this new world. Has anybody heard of a thing called generative AI? Anyone here? I have to say, over the last several weeks, we've had multiple events, and there was not one meeting with one customer, whether it be an ed tech, a gov tech, a state and local, or an education institution that did not want to talk about what generative AI is. You know, we're facing these new challenges from so many different directions, but navigating the unknown is really the biggest way for an opportunity for all of us. No idea is too big. And it was fun. Last night, we had several conversations with customers. They're like, yeah, you know, I don't know, it's too big. Nothing is ever too big for AWS. And that's really what we want to do. We want to imagine with you, and that's why we call the event Imagine. Now, we at AWS and at Amazon, we use the word innovation a lot. It is truly the core of who we are and what we believe in. This year alone, actually in 2022, we launched 3,332 new services and features. We have the widest and the deepest set of tools and services for our customers to help you innovate. But that's done in partnership. That's that thinking big. That's thinking about our customers, and it's really about innovating on behalf of and with our customers. Now, I could truly spend a full hour just talking about AI and ML, and with all the conversations we have with customers, we could probably do several hours on it. But I don't think anybody here could think about a day that hasn't passed or an article that hasn't been read or a conversation that they had that we're not talking about it. But let's take a quick step back and think about how we got here. For those of you who are familiar with Amazon, look at Amazon and AWS. We've actually been doing AI ML for about 20 years. As the most comprehensive set of services, wide and deep, we have over 100,000 customers of multiple industries and of many, many sizes that leverage AWS and our machine learning to transform their organizations. And really, that's what we hope to do with all of you. You know what? As technology changes, so does the capabilities of AI and ML. But really, our state and local customers will start there. They're using it to design better policies, to make better data-driven decisions, and to truly change the way they're engaging with their citizens and those that they work with. Think about solving problems quicker. And we've all been through COVID. We've all seen some of the challenges with call centers. I want to use an example here. Kentucky's transportation cabinet turned to Amazon Connect. It's an AI-powered contact customer service management, which improved not only citizen engagement, but also the employee engagement. Self-service chatbots were able to answer multiple questions. which then did not require a long wait time. But for those who did have to wait, those wait times reduced significantly. When you think about the challenges and the changes and how to address customer needs, you have to train your agents. Training literally was cut in half. Employee retention is also extremely important. By using Amazon Connect, they've been able to actually reduce turnover by 2/3. That's significant. When we think about education, and for those of you who have students in school, primary, or college, it's not lost on many of us when you see some of the statistics that have been published recently. We're seeing the change in education to be predicting better student outcomes, being more prescriptive with our learning and skill sets, changing to more of a personalized student journey. I have young children. I am very happy when I have to use, well, I'm not happy about it, but I do have to use some of the tutoring and some of the homework help to help my young kids get through some of the classes and the challenges that they have through their process. But think about it from a different perspective. Think about when a teacher or a professor is working with a student or a large class student. If they're able to identify when and where that student needs to be engaged to help support them in a different manner, that is revolutionary from where I know I started my educational journey. So the ability to predict a better student outcome by using the tool sets that are available, by leveraging ed techs that are focused on improving the outcome is so extremely important. I want to use an example, and it's a great one from an administrator's perspective. When you think about predicting student enrollment, how many kids are coming back to the classroom this year? How many are not? If you're oversubscribed, not good, wasted resources. If you're undersubscribed, students are going to be crowded in classrooms. In either environment, it's wasted or it's challenged for the resources themselves. But with the partnership of Arizona State University and their Cloud Innovation Center, they worked with Higley, and I always say that one wrong, but I think I got that right, Brenda. They worked with Higley to actually do a study. They typically used a static report, and that static report had, I think it's about 20% static reliability. When they did the prototype, they were able to change the outcome in two ways. One, the second iteration had nearly a 90% accuracy with a deviation of less than 2%, compared to the 20% deviation with the static report. But what's also interesting, the prototype itself actually changed the cost model by 95%. 95%. So think about some of the resources that they had to secure in order to get that report to have a better planning session. They were able to reduce the cost and improve the accuracy by using data. And as we know, generative AI is taking the world by storm from any angle that you want to talk about. Think about a recent study by Goldman Sachs. They say that AI, generative AI, could increase the global GDP by $7 trillion over the next 2 years. $7 trillion. So where are you at on your journey? You know, like all, machine learning models are very large, robust, pre-trained, and has vast amount of data. We call these foundation models. What makes them so special is the capability for them to perform some of these multiple tasks by using an architecture that is sized with several billion parameters themselves. Customers are customizing these foundation models and, more importantly, changing the outcome. When I think about the different use cases, even some of the use cases that I heard from customers over the last 24 hours, I think about one specifically. That would be Wabash College in Indiana. For those in the higher ed space, everyone understands that acquisition of potential students is costly and takes time. Wabash has started to use technology to help them predict better. When you think about traffic management, when you think about policies in public safety, or when you start to think about the impact to healthcare, this is where technology is going to make a difference. The possibilities are truly endless, and this is why we're excited to imagine with all of you when you think of your use cases, when you think of your problem statements, and how AWS can partner. For those of you who have not heard, we've invested $100 million in a generative AI innovation center. We will connect our customers with experts in AI and ML around the globe to help them design and ultimately launch new programs, products, and services. We also, and this thanks to the team, focus on the QR code, we launched Amazon Bedrock. It's a managed service for building generative AI applications. Customers can tailor their foundation models and deploy securely, and using AWS tools that you're probably familiar with already, such as SageMaker or Amazon Connect. We also have Code Whisperer. And I will say, if you're not on your journey yet with AWS, that's okay. Check out Code Whisperer. Simply use your .gov or your .edu address and take a look at some of the billions of lines of code, and you could generate real-time suggestions from whether it's snippets or whether it's full functions. Code Whisperer. And last, our AI and ML experience-based accelerator offering. For those of you who are interested, this is a hands-on, agile approach for customers to engage the support to get to results faster. If you're just starting your journey, work with your team. Let us help you accelerate that journey. It's an 8 to 12-week engagement that we'd like to talk to you about. Now, education institutions are really using the cloud. We saw that during COVID. They had to embrace a different way because of what we were dealing with from a delivery perspective. We are in constant collaboration with these institutions and the ed techs that support them so that we could change the way the delivery to students are received, because those students are looking for a different way to learn. Now, ed tech companies are helping us with responding to tools and requirements. And again, you've seen that through COVID, but these tools actually are delivering individual attention and real-time intervention, which is changing the outcome itself. Whether it's student, faculty, information, technology is allowing these students to have a better outcome and really providing the next level of innovation from an education perspective. But for those of you who did not know, the global education market was the top industry impacted by ransomware. The top. That's student data, learning information, personal data, administration data. Sophos said that 79% of higher education and 80% of primary and secondary institutions reported that they were hit by ransomware last year. That's significant. LA Unified School District here in California, the second largest school district in the United States, was attacked last year. Before we welcome our next speaker on, I'd like you to watch a video.
Los Angeles Unified's technology services have come a long way to meet the demands of today's learning environment. While past services focused mainly on operations and school staff, today, Los Angeles Unified offers a wide variety of applications for daily support of our students. The classroom environment has changed drastically in recent years, with technology becoming a driving force in education. As one of the largest technology environments in the country, we strive to support our students with the infrastructure needed to make scalable, high-speed access possible for all of our users. And not only can we house an immense amount of data, we can protect it. And help is readily available for our increasing number of users. Los Angeles Unified is customer-focused, proactive, and innovative to ensure that all students graduate ready for the world.
Please welcome to the stage Soheil Katal, Chief Information Officer at the Los Angeles Unified School District.
Good morning. Thank you, Kim, for the introduction. And I want to thank all of you for this opportunity that I can share my story. I wanted to start by welcoming everybody to join also this conversation with me in the upcoming sessions that we have. But let's start talking about cybersecurity and what happened with LA Unified and some in the high level, the subject around it. Obviously, it was midnight in the Labor Day weekend in 2022, August of 2022. I received the call, I woke up, and the bad news that most of the CIOs, they don't want to hear. There are bad actors in your network. The call from FBI, the call from White House, all federal agencies, they got involved in the first couple hours of our interaction with the bad actors. So, but reality, what is the infrastructure that we have for LAUSD? What services as an IT department we provide in LAUSD? We provide transportation services. They rely on my technology that we provide for them. We provide the food services for that population that you saw in the presentation. We provide facility services, safety, security, every aspect of the LAUSD. Over 1,300 campuses are serviced by this type of technology. We have a centralized network, infrastructure, data center, and everything like a web connected together. Therefore, any effect, any impact on this infrastructure is going to have severely impact my constituent, which is students, families, and my educators, my teachers, my employees. So when you look at that aspect, at the same time, we are a big target because we have so many doors. We have many network entry points to our system, 250 applications, and this many users that you add them up. We have in total close to 1.6 million users in our identity management system that we are serving. And we are a big target. As you saw, we have 33 million malware attacks each year that we block those attacks. The size and the traffic that we are generating and we are monitoring from it. So therefore, you have a risk and you have a size that these attacks are coming to you. It's at the same time, you need to come up with the process and procedure to improve your posture and your security. The cyber attack in LAUSD, it was valuable resource for us at the same time because it wasn't successful. Yet I'm here to tell you a story about it. If it was successful, I wouldn't be here. So it wasn't successful. Therefore, it helped even law enforcement agencies and others to be able to find evidence to go after these bad actors, to track them down, and at the same time to help me to protect my data and my system and not to pay the ransom. That's the key. Protect yourself and avoid paying the ransom. That was a lesson number one we learned from FBI, from CISA, and everybody else that they're going to tell you. Because no matter what, your data is going to leak in the dark web, one way or another. Never trust a bad actor. So, post-cyber attack, what did we do? We developed a strategic plan like everybody else does. We created the task force. The task force was from industry, knowledgeable resources from private and public sector. We had from multiple organizations, they worked with us, and we created 3 years of strategic plan based on these three criteria that you see. Number one, governance. You all deal with shadow IT. That's the biggest issue and threat to any organization. If you cannot implement proper governance, even most advanced tools are not going to be able to help you to protect yourself. Therefore, building the governance, avoiding shadow IT, or educating the other departments under your supervision to be able to think securely is important. The second part of it goes about the tools. That's where the money goes because you need to build essentially with the security culture across all of your applications and systems. Most of our systems were outdated. Modernizing them was number one priority. Therefore, we adopted the cloud-first strategy. We learned that cloud-first strategy during the pandemic when the excessive usage of the system and services needed more resources. When we were building systems, we adopted Amazon Connect, and we adopted a lot of other technology. And actually, one of the systems that survived during the cyber attack was our call center system, because it wasn't in my data center, it was in the cloud. So that tells you, mission-critical system. Make sure develop a proper cloud strategy first. It forces you, I'm not saying cloud by itself is secure, it forces you to adopt the security practice. So therefore, you can follow the model. If you build the same way, you're never going to get to that. So our strategic plan has heavy investment on the technology and the systems. And ultimately, you need people to deliver all of this. The people could be your resources or consultant and services that they are familiar with the product that you are putting in the market. Therefore, adopt the product, that's our strategy, adopt the products that they are all advanced, but at the same time are properly supported so you can hire resources to implement those technologies. So I heard Kim was talking about expansion of the cyber attack across the education sector. This is just a glimpse that shows you how widespread in 2022 the amount of the cyber attack in K-12 education was. Obviously, you see the green, which is kind of like a norm for education sector, is denial of the distributed denial of service attack, which almost every day we see that. But now the increase is going to be on the ransom and double extortion, which those two go in hand. That was what LAUSD dealt with. Number one, protect your system, and eventually the prevention from data leak. So what's the cost? How much is going to cost the cyber attack? These 6 criteria tells you the cost, and this is the slide that I use for my CFO, and I advise anybody who wants to justify the cost of enhancing security to take a look at this, because that's where it tells you the cost is not just the data recovery. The cost is not just paying the ransom, if you end up paying the ransom, which we didn't. The cost of the legal issues that you may deal post-cyber attack. And then you have the cost to your brand. You have a reputation, you have a brand. People recognize you. That's going to be tarnished to some extent by the cyber attack. And eventually, your insurance cost is going to go up. We all know that. You have a car, you drive, you get in an accident, your insurance goes up. It's the same thing in cyber attack. You get breached once, your cost is going to go up unless you have a proper plan to prevent it. And ultimately, every organization that get breached once, within the first year, 80% of them, they're going to breach again. So I'm waiting for August, but I'm protecting my system to make sure this is not going to happen to me. So there's some significant metrics over here as well, talking about the growth of the cyber attack. I really want you to pay attention to probably 3 sections over here. There are 2 metrics they're talking about increase about the demand and at the same time spending on the ransom, which you can see it over there. Those 2 metrics, they grow 3-fold, at least on one and the other one. But what is more important, that 287 days. That's which takes 287 days for organization in average to recover from cyber attack, fully recover. That's almost 2/3 of the year is gone. Revenue, financial, being effective in the service that you're providing, doesn't matter what service it is going to be impacted by that. We were lucky that we fully recovered within 90 days because there was an effort from federal, local, and everybody else to help us, and even partners, to build and bring up our environment sooner than later. But what is the expensive part is that 21 days. In average, you're out of reach for 21 days. This is where we were successful. That's what I'm saying. The attack was unsuccessful because the Tuesday after the Memorial Day, our school was on an operation. Why? That's a question that I'm going to answer in the session. That's right now I'm sharing with you. Lightning talk, protect yourself against cybersecurity threat. Please join me at 2:15. Thank you.
Well, that was a great hook. I guess we'll see you at a little later this afternoon in your session. Amazing story, and it's the work that you've done at LAUSD that really should have all of our educators and administrators thinking about how do you protect that data. You know, I mentioned earlier that there is nothing too big to imagine, and we're here to unlock what data can actually do to make that meaningful change. And really, it is the key that we have to unlock. You know, the IDC expects 129 zettabyte of data to be generated in 2023, and that will more than double by 2027. Anybody sitting there saying, what's a zettabyte? I did. For me, I did not know, and I had to do some research, and thanks to the team, they were able to help me out. It is 1 billion terabytes. They manage the math. But I think that's the part that all of you need to understand is that's your differentiator, and that is what we would call a superpower. You know, actioning data is the most important thing that we should be doing, the most important thing that we must do in order to change outcomes. We have to put and support it in a scalable, cost-effective, optimized performance so that you could gain the value of it. But it all has to start with modernizing. Now, many of my state customers, my county customers, even schools, each of you have siloed data. The question is, when you remove it out of the silo, think about the power of the opportunity to have a full scope of what that data can do to change outcomes, to improve citizen engagement. But you have to modernize to push your missions forward. You know, I don't think anywhere in the globe this is not an unknown, but think about critical services and homelessness. San Diego's Regional Task Force on Homeless, or I'll reference them as RTFH, found that for every 10 people that moved from homelessness to housing, 13 more people were homeless. When you think about that type of information, and you think about the power of understanding that impact, you could redirect resources, or more importantly, find additional funding to help secure housing. RTFH surfaced the stat after they migrated to AWS with a partner called BitFocus and their Clarity Human Services Homeless Management Information System, which integrated data from 700 different programs, 1,200 case managers, and more than 75 organizations that support the mission for homeless. They, as an organization, spent less time correcting data and more time analyzing data. And by doing so, they were able to identify what they needed more effectively and efficiently to support those who are experiencing homeless. That data set is so rich for them that they are making an impact. And like I said, when you look anywhere you're at, when you see homeless, you want to support, you want to help, but you have to have the data to understand it. You know, like I mentioned before, we have the most comprehensive set of data services and workload that you could properly store, unify, govern, visualize, and most importantly, analyze. These data silos can be broken down. And that's the opportunity for all of you when you start to imagine of the challenges and the mission that you focus. I will say, when we picked up education a bit back, the team, one of the things that became more and more apparent was the opportunity to support researchers. Whether it's light sail for research or high performance compute, the opportunity to support researchers to accelerate their mission is so exciting. And it is impactful for what we could do next. I'm going to play another video before we have our next speaker come on up.
Working in computer science is always very exciting, especially working in high-performance computing. My name is Ramin Yahyapour. I'm professor in computer science at the University of Göttingen, and I'm also managing director of GWDG, a joint compute center of Max Planck Society and the University of Göttingen.
A key customer for GWDG is the Max Planck Society, the third largest research institution in the world. Since its founding in 1948, the Society has produced 29 Nobel Prize winners in different areas. With research spanning many different disciplines, working in mathematics, computer science, chemistry, physics, and aerodynamics, processes have become more compute and data intensive. GWDG leverages AWS to scale services and enhance collaboration with researchers across the globe. The results are proving the value of the AWS cloud to research. It's science, not servers.
Please welcome to the stage Professor Dr. Ramin Yahyapour, Managing Director at GWDG.
Like I said, research. And you think about data and how we build up to where we're at. I think you do a far better job than me trying to articulate the amazing work that you do. So why don't I hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you very much for having me, and it's great to be here in Sacramento. Yeah, what do we do? As shown in the video, I'm Managing Director of GWDG. Our mission is to enable, support top-level science. GWDG is a high-performance computing center in Germany and in Europe in general. We have a quite sophisticated, elaborated infrastructure to support science for high-performance computing. GWDG is one of the 9 national supercomputing centers that we have. We are also one of the 4 national AI service centers, so we offer infrastructure access for scientists in whole Germany to accelerate our technology, and we are also active in national initiatives regarding research data management. As shown in the video, Max Planck Society is our top-level research organization in Germany. These are the Nobel Prize contenders, so our task is to support them and work and their research effectively. If we take one example in which we collaborate with AWS currently, it's a project called Tree of Life, which is a very data-intensive activity where collected information from genomics, proteomics are put together and made accessible and searchable for the whole world. So it's a collaborative activity in there. And it's, as mentioned, quite data heavy. So we are talking here about more than 20 petabytes of data. And what we would like to support is that this whole data is searchable and easily accessible. And for that, we collaborate with AWS as an extension to our existing infrastructure that we have on premise.
And you're being a little humble, actually. We did a recent announcement in May. Max Planck announced the formation of the Science Hub. It's the first Amazon Science Hub existing outside of the US, and it will focus on driving AI research development throughout Germany. And we're super honored to have you fly all the way from Germany to come talk to the team. It's amazing the work that you're doing. I've got a bunch of questions for you. When you think about supporting research and you think about the opportunity, can you tell us how AWS provides CDWG researchers with access to the open data sets, funding, and training to help accelerate that pace of innovation?
As mentioned, we have significant infrastructure on our side. So we have supercomputing facilities on site, but it's great to collaborate with AWS to complement our existing service portfolio that we have. AWS has a very broad set of tools and services, as you mentioned before, which very much complement to what we have. If we look on our researchers, we see general trends occurring. In the past, supercomputing was, well, a tool for experts. let's say people from physics, from natural science, they understand the technology very well, they understand the supercomputing very well, they understand the hardware. If we look now, we have with AI and ML technologies that are interesting for a much broader audience. It's something which is horizontal in research, from medicine on one side to social science, humanities on the other side. And these are very often not expert users. So it's our task at GWDG to help them to get access as quickly as possible to the tools and services they need to do their science. And another trend that we see is that collaboration becomes much more a topic, that for the big experiments, breakthrough research nowadays, this is not something that happens at one site with a small group of researchers. This is very often linked to large experiments where people share data, bring data together. As an example I was mentioning here, which is a large data set where many contribute to and many use that data for their research.
You know, we talk about personas when we think about researchers, and you're right. You have the researcher that could manage through a workspace to those that are actually looking for that supercomputer type of environment. And you know, you've mentioned you are a large supercomputing center, and your main focus has been traditional infrastructure. Why do you consider AWS a relevant collaborator, and what benefits do you see for both your organization and the research community of Max Planck and the university itself?
So for the supercomputing activities, we have the infrastructure, and I think we manage that very well to give access to our researchers, help them to use that infrastructure very well. If we look at AWS, it is a rich tool set, many services and infrastructure, which complements very well to what we do. In many cases, it wouldn't be cost efficient or time efficient to come up with strategies to replicate AWS services on our side, especially if some researchers only need for a temporal time access to those services. And scalability is also a topic. If we see quickly changing demand, that's something which with our traditional infrastructures, we cannot support that as well. So that's something where AWS would be also a great complement to support that.
You know, when you think about the journey to the cloud for researchers and really some of the policy challenges that when you're looking at funding from governments, you know, were there any specific initiatives from the European policymakers that helped you support some of those initiatives themselves?
We have many initiatives in Europe supporting scientists. One which is very relevant to us right now is the European Open Science Cloud. That's a real European approach to come up with a set of services that support all researchers in Europe to give them access to the best suited services. And they started 1 year ago with a tender process, which is something new. In the past, you got funding for certain activities, but now the model they are choosing is a tender process where we as GWDG partnered with AWS to jointly come up with a concept for a service in that infrastructure. And there, AWS was interesting for us, particularly because the trusted research environment that AWS also presented 1.5 years ago is something which is very interesting and relevant, because for many use cases we are looking at, we have regulatory requirements when and where someone has access to data, and there the trusted research environment is something that helps us.
You know, we hear about it from a security perspective. I'm sure those data sets are rich and access is important. Tell me a little bit about the security posture and how you partnered with AWS from a secure cloud perspective.
For this trusted research environment, we are looking for many different use cases. One was shown here, and in many of those, the question regarding data privacy, data security is a very important topic. And to support that, we need typically a separation of concerns. We need answers for regulatory requirements to support those experiments. And in the trusted research environment setup, we have that. We are generating jointly with AWS a data lake. In that data lake, we provide certain sets of tools where part of those tools are encrypted through a key exchange, where the keys remain with us as an intermediary for our scientists. And we can argue against the regulatory agencies we have to adhere to, that the separation is in that sense that as a cloud provider, AWS has not access to the full data set, which is relevant in some cases.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the researcher experience, right? So it's going to continue to change and evolve. assets and access to opportunities to do different things. When you think about that outlook and the collaboration that we hope to continue to have with Max Planck, what do you believe cloud computing, how do you think that'll actually impact researchers for the future?
Research is collaboration, and research is also competition. It's a question who has results first. And that's part of our mission to really support our researchers. And their cloud is a tool, an approach to get to those results quicker than in the past. And I assume that the collaboration we currently have for those use cases is something we can replicate for other use cases in the future, so that the access to those services are becoming easier. I mean, if you look on cloud in general, it's of course easy to use, but if you're not a cloud expert, not a cloud architect, it takes some effort to really understand how to set up a tenant, how to configure services, how the accounting and billing is done. And that's something that we as a service center, as a science service center, are going to support. And as part of the collaboration, the first thing we did, we started setting up a landing zone in which we can combine the different projects, the different tenants that we have in our cases, and are capable of supporting that approach. And what I should also mention is that for this European initiative, we have an existing framework contract that makes it quite easy for us to use AWS services. It's a legal framework, so it's linked to a tender that happened, I think, 2 years ago, that gives us a full access to the AWS services.
When I think about the audience, we have everything from research leaders to PIs to university CIOs. Whether it's to support the individual or more of an enterprise research environment, what would you give the audience by ways of a couple of recommendations of how to start or where to start?
As mentioned before, I think it takes some initial effort to approach those services, and that's something that could be speed up if you try to contact people who have an understanding, have a support structure. And in most countries, as in Germany, we have those science centers that are operating infrastructure, operating services that can help you on that journey. And that's something I would recommend for people to do. Said that, I would assume that even in the mid-long-term future, we are talking about a hybrid scenario. That's what I think will be the best suited choice for many research activities, where you have part of the infrastructure on premise, those parts which you understand quite well, you have a good understanding what you need in the mid and long term, but you complement that with cloud services like AWS to have a full set of whatever you need at a certain point in time very quickly to access it, and have all the scalability options in place. And also, as mentioned before, the collaboration aspect is something where cloud services can be very effective. It's much easier to provide access to many people, to share data, exchange data, have a general data space in which they can join their different information. So that's something I would assume in the future will continue and will be used much more in many disciplines.
Well, we look forward to continuing our partnership, and I want to say a very big thank you for taking the time to come out to Sacramento and talk to the teams. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Now, when we think about a couple of the key words that we heard from both speakers, it really starts to get into the talent. When we think about how do we solve, how do we look at the opportunity, it's about all of you and your tech talent. It's about asking how, it's about asking why, it's asking what if. It's all about learning and be curious. And we hope that's why you're here. But what we want to make sure is that we hope your staff is thinking the same way. Skilled talent continues to be a challenge for a lot of our leaders. AWS and Amazon has committed to training 29 million people by 2025. We can't do what we want to do, what you want to do, what you want to accelerate unless you have that talent. We have a vast portfolio of services, education classes, web tools, and our own teams that can help support your team's educational journey. These programs are vast, and I'm going to put this one up here. Again, another QR code. I'd say take a moment, just snap it up, because the amount of free is available to your entire team. AWS Skill Builder has more than 600 free, I love everyone's taking pictures, 600 free online courses in 20 different languages. They have hands-on labs, role-based games, and AWS certification support classes. We have education programs themselves. So whether it's Educate, Academy, Restart, these are all programs that we partner with institutions to help ensure that as they are building the next generation talent, they also have access to cloud content. You know, a recent Gallup study shows that 72% of US businesses report challenges in actually hiring digital skills. And according to the World Economic Forum study, Future of Jobs report from 2023, 75% of companies globally will be moving to cloud and adopting big data as an opportunity to improve services, to improve quality of delivery. And that's just going to happen in the next 5 years. So wherever you're at, wherever your team's at, it's either upskill, reskill. The important part is the learn and be curious part, because it is changing so quickly. You know what, in AWS's, we had the WWPS, Worldwide Public Sector Summit in DC. We talked about the AWS Skills to Jobs Tech Alliance. It was a great partnership with the City of New York. It was a new initiative to boost careers for learners and modernize some of the tech programs across 78 education institutions, serving more than 380,000 learners. The Alliance itself is a coalition of Fortune 500 companies and additional other employers, including government agencies. We're working with workforce development organizations and education leaders. You know, we're starting with 5. So we have Illinois, New York, Washington, Egypt, and Spain. Those are our first 5. We will be expanding that program as we continue, but we've started what is most important, and that is that collaboration between public, private, and supporting the need for improved outcomes for tech talent. Now, in California, if California were its own country, I don't know if you all knew, it's about the 5th largest economy in the world. Technology and innovation is big, and it's the reason why knowing where that talent is and will be is important. I'm super excited. Our next speaker is actually from here in Sacramento. She advises public sector individuals, not just here, but across the US. But before she joins the stage, I'm gonna have you watch this video.
For over 40 years, e.Republic has been a pioneer of the GovTech market. e.Republic is the nation's leading data, media, and events company dedicated exclusively to state and local government and education. e.Republic's mission is to serve as the trusted source for guidance, innovation, and meaningful connections, empowering government and education to reach their fullest potential. e.Republic is leaning into the future, helping government make sense of all of the disruptive technologies like generative AI that are starting to impact the public sector.
Please welcome to the stage Cathilea Robinett, CEO of e.Republic.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Kim. I am going to echo everything you just said throughout the whole morning. So, hi, I'm super excited to be here and welcome you to steamy Sacramento. Is it steamy enough for you? Okay, well, it's steamy enough for me. I don't like it when it gets this hot, but I'm excited to talk about anticipating the future. So, for most of my career, I have been championing technology and innovation in education and government, and pushing and prodding elected officials to understand that they have to embrace technology to really manage modern education and government today. So I've spent most of my life doing that. And our team thinks a lot about the future. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to dig in because I have a lot to cover in just a little bit of time. So the first thing to think about the future is we really look at public sector as an experience. So if you look at this diagram, for years, for most of my career, government education been working on this infrastructure and data layer. And then next went on to this application and service layer, which is where we really think we are today. But what is next? And I think next is really about anticipating the needs. You have to think about anticipating the needs of your students, your citizens, your businesses, and even your employees. And I think education has done a better job of this than government. But looking at what we're saying, the next layer is that experience layer. So the future is experiential. The future is also edgeless. So it's edgeless education and edgeless government. And what do I mean by that? Everyone kind of has their boxes, their four corners. And we need to get beyond that. Education needs to do that, and so does government. And here's a good example. It is Prime Day, right? It's Prime Day. So here we are, it's Prime Day, and we need a shed. Now here in California, you don't need a permit, but Texas and many other states, you need a permit to buy a shed. So we go, we buy our shed, but edgeless government has worked with those local jurisdictions. So not only do you get your shed, but then you get your permit. And you have all the information to that delivery team so that then when they deliver the shed, it's exactly the amount away from your fence that it's supposed to be. And so you're all within the rules and regulations. You get your permit and you go on. That is such a great experience. Now here in California, I had lunch with the head of our GovOps just 2 weeks ago. She was our former state chief information officer, got promoted to this huge job running GovOps. And she is all about this, edgeless government hacking permitting. Think about this. When our governor ran originally, he was all about the permitting process because so many businesses have come to him and said, hey, we've got to change this. So she is dedicated to this. In fact, when I talk with governors around the country, they're always talking about permitting. So if we could take permitting and just hack it and make it edgeless, think about the change that would occur and think about the economic impact. So our future is about experience and it's edgeless. But how do we build that? How do we get there? Got some ideas. The first is we gotta think differently. So I have had many positions in e.Republic, and I was president for a long time. But in the middle of the pandemic, I became the chief executive officer and took over this company. And the first thing that I knew is I had to think differently about the world we're in today and how to get this company into the future. And really embrace this idea of going beyond incremental thinking or linear thinking to exponential thinking. Now you can see some of these points and you can compare and contrast here, but I'm gonna focus on 3 of these points. The first one has to do with goals. Now the good news is that education and government has goals. That's good because we need goals to accomplish things. But it has been about realistic goals. But if you look at where we are today in government and education, we're at a moment in time that we need to go beyond realistic goals and set ambitious goals. The leaders who set ambitious goals get a lot more done. And that's really what's needed right now. So ambitious goals. The next idea is this concept of standardization. For years, think about what we've done in government education. So it's standard operating procedure, it's project management, it's being efficient. Well, that's fine, but the future is about personalization. I already talked about that a little bit from an experience standpoint, but how do we personalize everything that we do when we deliver? And the last thing has to do with decision making. Government education, really good with centralized decision making. So are companies. You know, the first thing I did when I took over as CEO is I went on a listening tour and talked to every department in the company, asked a lot of questions, and realized we had a decision-making issue. There wasn't enough decision-making where it needed to be. And so really, we wanted to empower decision-making, so we've changed that up. And I really think the future for all of us has to do with this. Step 2, have the right foundation. Well, thank goodness we're at this incredible AWS conference, so this audience already gets the right foundation. Because the future is not having on-premise servers hiding in closets around buildings. That is not the future. The future is the cloud. And if you think about the disruption and innovation that the cloud has brought us just in the last 10 years, how everything has changed because of that. So it's taking you out of that technology infrastructure business and really into the business of innovation, transformation, and getting stuff done, which is vital right now. So next, we gotta promote diverse thinking. And wow, it is so great to see AWS leaning into this. This is the cover of Government Technology, our recent cover. And I love this story because this is a young woman from Indiana, Jennifer Swartz. And she has spent her adult life working in kitchens. And then the pandemic hit. So she makes a career shift. She enrolls in a local tech community college. And then she finds out about the state of Indiana program called Earn and Learn, which actually pays students to become technology professionals. And then when they graduate, they go to work for the Department of Technology Services in the state of Indiana. She goes through this program, and you know, from a cook to a junior systems engineer, she comes out and starts working for the state. And not only is she incredibly excited about this new opportunity, but the state CIO who runs this program, he's thrilled with all of the new employees, this new level of thinking, and a diverse workforce. So the thing about the future, really it's about digital equity, it's about diversity, inclusion, it's about belonging, it's all of that, and not just in hiring, but in everything that we do. Step 4, we gotta keep it simple. Now, if you've noticed today, people don't have a really good attention span, and the future is all about speed. So I'm highly recommending this book. So the founders of Politico left Politico and started a company called Axios. I read their newsletter every day. And not only do they do all of their newsletters with this smart brevity format, but they run their entire company. And the concept is less is better. And I think the future is about speed, and it's about delivering your communication quickly and efficiently to the people that you need to influence. No longer are these huge 3-ring binders with reports. Those days are over. I read this book the first day it came out. It is an easy read, gave it to all of our executive team, our teams. We've done trainings on this. We run everything in our company, even down to how we run our meetings with the smart brevity format. So the future is keep it simple. And then the last point here is this concept of being adaptable. And you know, I can't do a better job than you did about talking about generative AI and what's happening in the world. Think just from January, how it's just disrupted everything and all the projections and all the information that was already shared. So this is a moment in time. It's a transformative time for education and government, and we have to be adaptable. We have to be able to change. And underneath being adaptable is this concept of measuring what you're currently doing. So this great Peter Drucker quote, a really important quote for me, you can't manage what you don't measure. I have taken that to heart. And you all have to as well, right? You have to look at your key performance indicators. You've got to look at your analytics. And how long have we been talking about data-driven decision-making? But it's really finally here. Because the key is if you're managing like this today and you have the data and the analytics at hand, you can be a better leader and manager. And it does a few things for you. First of all, if you have the metrics, you as a team can look at that and analyze it, and it puts you all on the same page. The other thing that it does is you don't have to suffer people's opinions, right? People have a lot of opinions about a lot of things. I get a lot of people's opinions. What's great about managing this way is you can just look at the information. And the last thing that it does is if you need to adapt and pivot, you can see, oh, this isn't working. Wow, we rolled out this program. We thought it was going to be fantastic, but it's not. And you can pivot. And you pivot as a team. So this idea of you measure, you adapt, and you repeat is the new cycle of innovation for all of us. So we put that all together, and where do we go from here? And I want to illustrate this with a conversation I had on Friday with the city manager of Stockton, California. When I first met Harry, he was the chief financial officer of Baltimore, Maryland. And then he took on the job as city manager of Cincinnati, Ohio. And then Stockton brought him here to California. Stockton has struggled for years. It's really been a city that's really trying to reinvent itself. And what I loved about this conversation with Harry is he represents where do we go from here? Because he's embracing the future. He is fed up with this Gov and Ed 1.0, as he calls it, and that we need to get to Gov 2.0. And that's going to need different skills and approaches that we don't even have yet. He is passionate about changing the nature of training, taking the theory and really focusing on the practical. And how do we teach people in government education how to get things done? He spent so much time talking about getting things done because we don't get enough done. And right now, we have so much to get done. So he's passionate about that. So for me, he is the future. He's one of those leaders that leans into this. And I challenge us all to do that. And if you look at this cliche here, so you got the glass half empty or half full. You could either go, well, this is a time, there's a lot going on, I'm going to retire soon or I'm going to change jobs, so I think someone else could figure this out, really maybe handle some of the problems, or we can embrace it. We can look at this dynamic time that we're in, all of the tools, everything that's changed and where we are, and we can lean into it. And we can change our department, we can drive that direction, and we can move towards the future. And really, if you look at innovation, our only solution is to look that the glass is half full. And I personally think this is a moment in time that we need to lean into this. I've lived through a lot of different moments of all of this in government education. And right now, I am more excited than ever. And I think it's time to embrace this. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great conference, and let's do this.
So I have to say I subscribe to that. And I hope all of you have that strong desire to get stuff done. Now, bringing community together is so important because it is about getting through those big challenges and literally collaborating to do that as well. But just as impressive as the technology, the speed, or the scale is, it really does come down to you. You are the leaders. You are the visionaries. You are the professors of the problems, but most importantly, you can make things happen. Last year, we introduced our education champions. And today, I'm excited to announce that we've expanded that program to the SLG leaders, state and local government. The Champions Program celebrates influential individuals and organizations who innovate and strive to improve citizen engagement, student outcome. So many of our champions are actually here today as they're taking pictures over there. Can I ask you all to rise? I'd like to give all of you a big round of applause. Thank you for what you do. You are blazing the trail for many, and as we know in this industry, we understand what you've done might be first, but you help support so many that need to follow in your footsteps. So I want to say a personal thank you for everything that you've done. Our champion website is officially live today. But as Soheil mentioned, many of them are actually doing breakout sessions to hear about what they did, how they innovated, how they solved for challenges. And I hope you have the opportunity to meet some of them today. Go to the website. Their contact information is there as well. Collaborate. Learn. Amazon's leadership principle, learn and be curious, is so important in this space. And I hope you take the opportunity to learn and be curious from some of our champions. You know, the future is bright when you look past all the hard stuff, glass full, not half empty, and really take the opportunity to do one thing, and that is be a lifelong learner. Be a lifelong learner on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of the students, because we have to make that future brighter, and it is brighter. And I think about the way we can imagine the new of what it could and will be. So to all of the customers that took the time to come out to Sacramento, I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for investing the time. Thank you for innovating. It is truly exciting to collaborate. And like I said to many of the customers I had the opportunity to talk to, bring us the big stuff. Bring us the big challenges. The biggest challenge that you have, we want to work with you to help solve for it. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for coming.